Cheers, Soon.
Cheers.
My gosh, this looks so good. So refreshing. What are we drinking?
So you're drinking one of our specialty cocktails. It's called the Whole Guava Love. It's Tito's vodka, guava nectar, fresh lime, and homemade lemongrass syrup.
It's so good. And I know this one I have is made with the 0.0 gin too.
Yes.
Okay, we're at your restaurant, The Good Bowl, right here on Front Street. I want to jump right in and say that I just love your core values here and what the business stands for and how you're giving back. So you not only have healthy and delicious Vietnamese food, but you make an impact locally, nationally, and globally. So I'm curious why it was important to you to do good with this business too.
Well, I've always been a foodie since I was a kid. You know, when you grow up in a family of 7, if you don't cook, you have to fend for yourself, right? And so, I mean, it was great to be able to cook in the kitchen with my mom. So I've always been a big foodie. But also, you know, being an immigrant of one of the boat people in the 70s, you know, one of the things I am super grateful for the U.S. is taking us in as the boat people. And so, you know, as I built my career and as I started to, you know, move to Traverse City, I started to recognize there wasn't a lot of ethnic food here. And a friend of mine just said, you know, you're really philanthropic, you're a big foodie. What if you know, started that restaurant you've always been playing with the idea and you donated some of the proceeds to charity? It wasn't something I just thought about, you know, morning, noon, night, but then when that, you know, suggestion came in, it just clicked. I said, you know, this is the way for me to thank the U.S. for taking us in.
I love that. And I want to talk about your experience when you were little. But first, tell me about the charity model here, because I even look around and it says, you know, your featured charities. How does it work?
So how it works is every quarter we give you an option to donate $1 per bowl that we actually donate on your behalf. So when you come in and you order our signature pho or a rice bowl, we'll say, for this quarter, where do you want your dollar to go to? So we always do a local charity, a national, and a global. And the reason why is I believe in local, but I also believe in a global view of the world. And so to me, that's really important, especially because I wasn't born here. I think we're all, there's a sense of humanity. So I don't think it's just local, but I think it's inclusive. And how we pick our charities is a guest will suggest a charity, and then we narrow down for each section, local, national, and global, the top 3 that were suggested, and then we actually have our employees vote. So the community gets involved in the selection and the employees get involved in the selection.
Wow.
So you're kind of hearing it from all ends.
Sure. Now I want to read a quote from your website that says, "Small acts when multiplied by millions of people can transform the world." Where did that sentiment come from, and when did you learn this in life?
Well, you know, when we started the restaurant, my partner and I, Tony, and we said, you know, we want to sprinkle elements of our beliefs all around the restaurant. And so we picked several quotes that really inspired us. I mean, I think there's a lot of heroes in the world, but I think small acts of kindness really make a difference. And so there's so many great stories I've heard where somebody's, you know, even this morning I heard of a great story of 2 strangers donating their bone marrow to save the child's life that they didn't know. That one little thing can change that kid's life. So I hear stories all the time of that. Those are the things that really inspire me.
Yeah. Now, when you immigrated to the U.S., you were just 5 years old. What do you remember most from being a little girl when your family was starting a life here?
I remember just being resourceful and working hard. My parents came here with $300 in their pockets, 6 kids. My mom was 7 months pregnant, living in a refugee camp. So, you know, I remember being resourceful. We had to figure out how to, you know, my dad worked 2 jobs. He learned English at night. My mom raised 7 kids without, you know, aunts, uncles, you know, sitters. So it was, you know, she didn't know English. So, you know, just like, I think you have to find a way to get things done. So I'm pretty resourceful to kind of think how, you know.
One of the charities that you have partnered with here at Good Bowl helps local anti-racism efforts. And I think it's really important to talk about it. And luckily people are talking about it more now. Yeah. I'm curious on a personal level, your experience growing up Asian in the US, and what was that experience like?
It was amazing, actually. I think what makes America and the US great is this loving mentality towards people coming here and making a great living. I know there's some challenges with it too. I mean, I think we have to get a hold of some of these immigration issues, but I think in general, the US was built on these great American dreams, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was great. We were very embraced by our community, but yeah, there are elements of racism out there. There are. I think it's how you handle those things with grace that I think really puts life into perspective. You know, when I was a kid, I lived in primarily white community, but I think, you know, when you embrace people and you welcome them to your home and introduce them to your food or your culture, they find it actually pretty fascinating. People want to learn. I think it's about just building the bridge. Even if somebody says something offensive to you, that doesn't have to be the end of the conversation. It could actually be the beginning. It's a great learning moment for them, a learning moment for you. Why do they feel like that? You know, and maybe just I think the best way to build the bridge is to bring people closer together than to try to make that a divide.
And you kind of answered this already, but how has being a refugee impacted your view of the world?
Oh, it's the greatest gift I've ever had, I would say. Even with my friends in Traverse City, it's been so cool to introduce them to who I am and, you know, what we're about, and just learn from them. It's definitely I mentioned it's made me resourceful. It's made me grateful. It gives me great pride in the U.S. So I mean, when I hear some issues around immigration and I hear some issues about this, it makes me sad, but also invigorated to say, okay, I think we could actually do something here, you know? And, you know, when you look around the restaurant, you see elements of Vietnam here. There's a lot of education here, but I'm hoping in a subtle way where, you know, we created this beautiful map of Vietnam and people ask about it all the time. You know, we have this beautiful Vietnamese bamboo bike, all of our food. So we have lots of opportunities to give people an aspect to Vietnamese culture. I think being a refugee was, even though I said it's great, it was hard. It was hard for my parents, I would say, to have a pretty successful life in Vietnam and then to give that all up and come here. But what they taught us is you can build anything, you know? You don't have to start with a ton to make something great. So I learned a lot. I mean, I would never give up my experience, ever. But it was hard. It was a hard learning lesson, but I was grateful for it.
Did your parents make it have they been to the restaurant?
Yes, they have, yeah. We actually had a really special experience at our first anniversary here of the restaurant. Was also the 35th anniversary of my family and I coming to the United States. And so it was this serendipitous. Tony, my partner's family, and my family had never met, and we all came together. So there was 37 of us. Wow. We ate here, we went to my house, and we had a big kind of barbecue, and it was so fun. But yeah, it was, they're really proud of, you know, this. They're entrepreneurs themselves. And so they love the charitable component.
And how did you connect with Chef Tony?
When a friend of mine came up with the idea to kind of think about the restaurant, I really wanted a local chef who understood Vietnamese cuisine. And I was so lucky to meet Tony. It was my lawyer, actually, as I was coming up with this idea, said, you know, I have a buddy, you know, who lives kind of, you know, around here, who owns a Vietnamese restaurant. You guys should connect. First, I was thinking maybe a consultant, but it was instant chemistry. We had a similar story. His family emigrated from Vietnam as well. And so it was like not even a question for us to have this mission-driven business. So it was magic and great chemistry, and we're great friends.
Oh, that's so nice. With Tony's Creations, how do you incorporate local ingredients into Vietnamese cuisine, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, when we can, for sure. There's great elements. You know, we use local mushrooms, local herbs. We'll go to the farmer's market. We also have a great head chef, Devin Shaw, who's grown up here, and so or who's been here for the last few decades, and he also tries to use as much local ingredients as possible. He's very creative. So between Tony and Devin, they come some pretty cool ways to incorporate local ingredients here.
Yum! It's such a good local farm to table scene up here. So outside of the restaurant business, you're also a marketing and PR maven. Can you share, tell me about your role at Hagerty as the SVP of
Brand. Yeah. So actually my background, my first job in LA was at a PR firm. So my background's in PR, communications, and brand strategy. And so I started my first agency when I was 30. And then when I got married to McKeel, my husband, and I moved to LA, I moved from LA to Traverse City, I stayed consulting for all these different brands, including Hagerty. And then a few years ago, I gave up the agency and just, I'm working full time for Hagerty, and I absolutely adore it. I love the culture. I love the people. They've definitely made me nicer since I moved from LA. I've gotten the Midwest bug, I'm much nicer than I was. I oversee all of our creative, our PR, communications, and our events. And and our goal at Hagerty is to really position ourselves as a lifestyle brand for car enthusiasts. And how I explain it really is, insurance is how we make money, but that's not why we're successful. We're successful because we understand what car people love, and we surround themselves with great products and events and memberships. So it's really cool to see. I think cars connect people unlike any other item. So it's great.
So Hagerty, everyone knows the name around town. What's something about the company that that people don't know about, whether it's maybe what the company stands for or some fun history?
Well, our purpose is to save driving. So we're really about the future of the hobby. But I think what people don't realize about Hagerty, and I think people hear good things, but the level of care of the leadership team, I think there's such thoughtfulness in every decision. Our COO, Coco, also, has really understands the culture. And every time we make a big decision at the company, we always give our employees a chance to have a voice, especially when we tackled social issues. How do we tackle racism? How do we tackle, any type of inequality? We definitely have spent time with our employees. I think that's important. If you're making policy for your employees, it doesn't make sense not to talk to them about it. So I think the level of care, in the culture is really important. Culture doesn't just happen. You have to build it into your belief and your thinking. So we're really proud of that.
Yeah, I could go totally down a whole rabbit hole of questions as it relates to all of that. I'd want to touch on, obviously, Traverse City and the community here. When you first came here, what was your first impression?
Besides cold, frigid, I felt it was, to be honest, I felt like Traverse City was a bit too small for me at first. I felt like, it's especially being Asian or Vietnamese here, you stood out. So I didn't, in all honesty, I didn't love the small town because I felt like you had no privacy and everybody kind of like got in your grill, as people would say. But as I've built a family here and built friends here, I think that smallness has absolutely outweighed the negative. Running into people, seeing kids grow up, going to a basketball game and cheering for 20 people versus one is really a cool sense of community. But my biggest surprise of Traverse City is, even though it's a small town, it's very globally conscious. I actually have met so many well-traveled people. I'm blown away. Having the restaurant, they'll come in and say, "Oh my gosh, I've been to Vietnam." So you get two types of people that come into the Good Bowl. Either somebody who's never had it and is very anxious about it, or they have it and they're obsessed. Right. So so I think the smallness of Traverse City at first kind of shocked me a little bit, let's say, but now I've really grown to love it.
Yeah, totally. What, you've been here for almost a decade, and you have a family here. What has changed the most over the last 10 years?
For me personally?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say about the city, but sure. How have you?
The city.
But also, you as well.
Yeah, I definitely think Traverse City started to really grow up in terms of different views of things. I really have appreciated more of an effort on some of the equality issues we're starting to really tackle. I'm definitely starting to see more ethnic restaurants come here. I'm seeing more interest. So I think Traverse City's really evolved to become more than just a local spot. They're starting to be more globally conscious. I think I've just really appreciated being able to have this global footprint in Traverse City. So
Totally.
It's exciting.
I love hearing that. What would you like to continue to see be improved?
Yeah, I think we can never stop evolving. So I think the more we can add diversity, but also appreciate, what makes Traverse City special. I'm not a big believer that you have to change everything about you or a city for it to be great. You pick the elements that are great, like farm to table, all the great ability to be outside, like elevate that, but then add in a little balance of different cultures and cuisines and thinking. I think I'm a big believer in you evolve best when you double down on what makes you great versus to try to make so many changes in your weaknesses. So doubling down on the great community, great local food, but once in a while just give a chance for others to really inspire you to think differently. So
that's the quote right there. I love that. So the work at Hagerty came first and then Good Bowl. What was the most challenging part of starting a restaurant?
Oh, everything. I think, a restaurant is a very public entity. Everything has to be perfect, from the lighting to the temperature to the food to the service to the pricing. So it's this living, breathing animal that happens with or without you. If you're not there, but it's a great thing. I also think, Tony and I really wanted to change the dynamic and the reputation of a restaurant. Generally, restaurants can be known for having a pretty brutal culture, right? Turn and burn. So we really invested in our people. And I think having a mission-driven restaurant helped them to connect to something larger. Yeah. So we don't believe in the big culture of, I'm stereotyping a little bit of, people screaming in the kitchen, people walking out, so we said, we're going to do this a little different. So I don't believe in this idea that this is how restaurants run. Sure. No way. We just said, you have to pay people well, treat them well, and I think everything else, you just guide the process after that. So, but I think running a restaurant is a really tough business that I've enjoyed almost every day.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy you guys are in Traverse City and to meet you. I have two more questions. What's the best business advice that you've received along the way? Coming from entrepreneurs and starting your own business, is there something that stuck with you that someone told you along your journey? Or is there advice that you would give someone?
Yeah, I talk about this a lot with my team at Hagerty and my team at the Good Bowl is, when you have a vision and an objective, you raise the bar high and then people will self-select out. Instead of trying to accommodate a vision because someone can't meet it, you say, this is the vision for our business and our company, and you guide people along that vision and they will decide if they can't meet it versus the other way around. So I think set the bar high and people will self-select out.
Oh, that's good. And the question I love to ask everyone is, if you could have a drink with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, wow, that's a really good one. I think Nelson Mandela is a pretty impressive character, and I'm sure a lot of people talk about him, but I've read several of his books, and just the ability to go through what he's been through and come out with grace and to be actually a better person after 27 years in prison is really impressive. So I think, again, I think he's one of those people that made me say, okay, it's not what happens to you, it's how you react to it that makes your life what it is. So I would say Nelson Mandela.
Oh, so much good stuff here. And I lied. I do have one more question is, what's next? And what's an impact and legacy do you want?
Yeah, we have a really great purpose and mission at Hagerty, so I feel really good about what we're doing for the hobby and for our employees. I think the Good Bowl is on a great path. I hope we'll hit over $100,000 by the end of the year of giving. Nikhil and I have also thought about what can we do personally, and we've really explore different avenues of giving. So our goal is to start a new foundation of our own personal foundation. It's going to be geared towards helping young girls have an education and build their own business. So education and entrepreneurship for young girls, because we have 3 girls ourselves. And I really believe that if a young girl has a chance to do that, I think she'll thrive. So we're excited about that.
What a great example you are for your girls as well. And I have to ask, is there a key to working with a spouse? Like, is there
a cocktail? No. I don't know. I think it's the same as any relationship. It's respect and listening, right? I mean, I always joke, and I'm not always the best at this, but I try to be really thoughtful. It's like, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Just listening and being respectful, and just kind of, Mikhail and I think what makes us special, and we've talked about this to each other, is we always want each other to win, and even when there's a critiquing moment, we do it in a way where we want them to win. I think you have to, when you give critique, they've got to be able to get back up. You can easily say, I don't like these things about you, but can they get back up from that? I think that's really key.
I recently interviewed Rachel Zoe, who also works with her husband, and she said the same thing. So noted. Well, I could chit chat forever. I know the restaurant's opening in like 5 minutes. So thank you, Soon. Cheers to you and everything you're doing in the community. And thanks for doing the drink.
Thanks for your time.